Hey guys, so today I have swatches of the Essie Spring 2019 collection. I found 5 of these on the Ulta website, thinking I was getting them really early, and then by the time the 6th one showed up anywhere, which ended up being on transdesign.com, they were pretty much everywhere. Head to Toe Beauty, 88 Beauty, Trans Design. So these are around 6 polishes here altogether, and I will get into the swatches. So the first polish is called Stirring Secrets, and this is a very, very light, almost peachy shade. I mean, it's super light, so it's a neutral, but it has a little bit of a peachy tone to it, which is totally not showing up on camera. Cool. So this one is pretty opaque for being a light shade. It definitely still has some streaks to it. I feel like with Essie polishes, these kind of shades can go either way. They can either be nicely opaque like this one, or they can be really, really sheer. You never quite know what you're going to get. Though lately, I feel like they've been more on the opaque, performing well side. Good formula on this one as well. Not too thick, not too thin. So this one does build up really nicely in 2 coats. I can, because I am a monster and never take notes. Can't quite remember if I did 2 or 3 for my photos, so I'm going to let this completely dry before I call it, because these lighter shades can dry more sheer than they apply. Some streaks can show up that weren't there when it was wet. Looking at this, I think it'll be okay, but I could be wrong. This one did dry pretty opaque for me on that 2nd coat. I don't think I need a 3rd. I will say, though, I do have a couple of very, very minor light spots. I can see where those could be worse if you do a little bit thinner of coats, or if you're just really picky, you might want a 3rd for this one. I'd say it's between 2 and 3, but I'm leaning more towards 2. I don't know. There is 2 coats of Stirring Secrets. The next polish is called Pinkies Out, and this is a, is it peachy or is it coral? I think it's coral shade with a pink shimmer. So this one is a bit sheer on the 1st coat. It does have a shimmer in it, so that's pretty normal. And it also has cotton ball fuzz in it. I definitely need to convert to like lint-free wipes so I can remove the cotton ball fuzz from all my videos. So if you guys have some good recommendations on like lint-free cotton, anything that I can remove polish with in between coats, let me know. No peel off base coat, because the polish is usually still wet by the time I take it off. Good formula on this one. The shimmer is standing out pretty nicely as well. So this one does start to build up in 2 coats. Like the last one, it's looking really good for me here in 2, but I'm going to let it dry all the way, because I can see, yeah, you know, I can almost already see some dark spots, so I'm expecting those to get a little bit worse as it dries completely. This does dry a little bit dull, so you will want top coat. And there are some brush strokes through that shimmer. It's hard to tell with the 1st coat because it's a little bit more sheer, but I'm assuming those will be gone when it dries. Even if they don't, they're not that bad. So I am adding a 3rd coat to this one. Once it dried, I had some streaks that were just a little bit too intense for me to let them slide. You might be able to get away with 2 with this one, but I think you'd have to be like really easygoing about finishes to be okay with those. And the shimmer isn't like glaring in your face because it is kind of similar to the base color, but it does stand out pretty nicely. So that is 3 coats of Pinkies Out. The next polish is called A Touch of Sugar, and this is a light pink with a chunkier gold shimmer. And I don't mean chunky like in a bad way, I just mean that the particles are a bit bigger versus something, oh, that's full of fingerprints, versus something like this that has a more fine shimmer, but that this isn't actually a glitter, so it's not going to be chunky on the nail. I should say it's not going to be textured on the nail, because using chunky 2 different ways to describe the same thing is confusing. This is pretty sheer on that 1st coat. That shimmer stands out really, really nicely though, and I still have a bunch of the last polish down in here. Good formula on this one as well. So this one does start to build up a bit on that 2nd coat. I can still see my nail line pretty well though. This seems like one of those polishes where you're going to get most of your coverage out of the shimmer and not as much out of the base color. And again, this does dry smooth, but I think those shimmer particles are large enough that they're probably going to be stuck to the skin a bit when you do remove the polish. But you won't have to scrub to remove them. So this one does build up a little bit more on that 3rd coat. I do max out at 3 coats, but I can still see just a little bit of my nail line here. Though that 3rd coat does build that pink base shade up a bit more. So that is 3 coats of A Touch of Sugar. The next polish is called Tears of Joy, and this is a light purple with a green shimmer. And this one is pretty sheer on that first coat, but that green shimmer does, you can already tell, is standing out really well. You can really see it on the brush. Some brush strokes through that shimmer as well, but I'm assuming those will ease up as it dries. And good formula on this one also, not too thick, not too thin. I really should be using consistency because some people get confused when I say that it's streaky and has a good formula. I really just mean strictly thick or thin when I say that. So this one actually builds up pretty well on that second coat compared to how sheer it was on the first. I can still see a little bit of nail line if I look really closely. If this was how opaque it was fully dry, I would say it's good in 2, but I'm going to let it dry again just in case it dries a little bit more sheer. And it is hard to tell on that first coat because it is so sheer, but it looks like those brush strokes did ease up quite a bit. Okay, I'm really on the fence with this one. It's like it's right on my line of what needs 2 coats and what needs 3 coats. I think probably for time's sake, I'm going to call this good in 2, but it is like so close to me wanting to put 3 on, especially on my pointer finger. I think I tend to do a little bit thinner of a coat on my pointer finger so the nail line, I can see it at certain angles and it's definitely the worst on this finger here. So I'm going to call it at 2, but this is definitely a 2 or 3 coater just depending on application or preference. So that is a hesitant 2 coats of Tears of Joy. So the next polish is called Teacup Half Full, and this is, at first glance, it's a brown. If you look at it closely, it definitely has kind of a mauve-ish tint to it, but leans very far in the brown direction, and then this also has a gold shimmer to it. So this one is decently opaque on the first coat, not a 1-coater. I also feel like some of that shimmer in there is helping to make it lean more brown. Brush strokes through the shimmer at first, but those should chill out a little bit as it dries. And good consistency on this one as well. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats, and you can see that second coat deepens the color quite a bit. I said this kind of leaned more brown anyway, but I feel like once it's on the nails, it's very brown, much more than it looks in the bottle. And the brush strokes through that shimmer did dissipate a bit as it dried. So that is 2 coats of Teacup Half Full. And the last polish is called Rain Check, and this is a kind of blue-green metallic, like a, I don't know, almost gunmetal-y blue-green metallic, if that makes any sense at all. And it has these little gold specks running throughout it as well. So this one is a bit more sheer on the first coat than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be one of those thicker, like really opaque metallic shades. It's not bad, but it wasn't what I initially expected. Those little gold specks do stand out pretty nicely on that first coat anyway. And formula, consistency, whatever is good. Not too thick, not too thin. So this one does cover completely in 2 coats. The color deepens a little bit, but those little gold shimmer particles still stand out just as well. And there are a few brush strokes through here as well, but those do go away as it dries. And I just bumped this nail. So that is 2 coats of Rain Check. So I really did like a touch of sugar. I like the chunkier gold shimmer that's in there, but I didn't love that it was still a little bit sheer on the third coat. For me, sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's not, and this is just a polish that I wasn't big on the little bit of nail line that I had left. So I went with Tears of Joy because this collection kind of bored me to death, and this is the one that I did really like out of there. I just think it stands out the most out of all of them. Obviously the brown with the gold shimmer is like a little unique, but I still don't love it because I'm feeling picky today. So Tears of Joy is my favorite. So that is the Essie Spring 2019 collection. Again, I found those on the Ulta website, but I think the Ulta has been so weird because they have the whole Serene Slates collection, and then they have 4 of the 6 Essie Valentine's collection. They have 5 of the 6 spring collection. I think they only have 6 of the China Glaze spring collection. It's weird. But that's where I found those, but there are better places with better prices that you can get them online. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you later. Bye.